Today, we will discuss the topic psychology of illusion. And I will try to explain first, what is the illusion? Second, how does the illusion manifest in our psychology? And the third, also, at least some steps of how we can get out of illusion. So we will start by reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 7, text 27. Ichadvesha samutena dvandvamohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sargayanti parantapa. O sign of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envious Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Shri Krishna appears by his internal potencies, but those who are deluded by duality and nations think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc., thinking. This is my wife. This is my house. I'm the master of this house. I'm the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So the first question is, what is the illusion? And in the Vedic literature, we can find actually in many places, in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other places, that the illusion really is the misidentification. The misidentification, and it is very nicely described in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7. Chapter 7, verse, I believe, is the verse number 11, where it is actually described that the reason or the cause of all the misfortune that the living entity is experiencing in this world is his misidentification. And what is the misidentification? Misidentification is we misidentify ourself with our material body. And the analogy that is given in this text in the third canto is the analogy of the moon. Like we have on a, on a full moon night, there is a beautiful moon in the sky. And if we have a reservoir of water, like a river, or we have like a lake, then there is a reflection of the moon on the water. But while the original moon is fixed, it doesn't doesn't move or doesn't shake. The reflection of the moon on the water, it's it appears to be quivering because of the movements of the water. So this analogy actually represents that although our real self, our real identity is the soul, which is unchangeable, which has nothing to do with this material existence, with this material energy, yet we experience the effects of change in this material energy because of this identification. Because we identify with this body. And as the body is affected by the material energy, as the body is constantly undergoing changes, then we as a soul, we also start experiencing this changing. Although in the reality, we have nothing to do with them. And yet, because of our misidentification, we are affected. We are affected. So in this way, then we experience pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor. We experience good and bad. And as this verse that we are just discussing right now is very nicely explaining the psychology of the illusion. So how do we know if we are in illusion? And how do we know to what degree are we in illusion? So these are very interesting questions. So first thing, we can understand that we are in illusion if we experience the duality of this material world. So, and we are affected by it. So I feel happy, you know, when things are nice, everybody is nice to me, when the sun is shining, when I have some success in my endeavors, then I'm happy. And when people don't like me, when I have difficulties in relationships, in my work, in my study, when I have some pain in my body, then I am miserable, I am unhappy. So this is the duality. So this shows that I am in illusion. This shows that I am in illusion. And there are actually the different degrees of this illusion. And the different degrees of this illusion can be actually measured through the three modalities of the material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Goodness is the highest level of consciousness and is the most pure. So the illusion, it's not so deep in the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, also we can understand things in proper perspective, and we can actually also gain this knowledge, and we can then also gradually free ourselves from illusion completely. But if we are more affected with the lower qualities like passion and ignorance, then we go deeper into illusion. And we can see that in the mode of passion, these dualities are much stronger. Some of the qualities or the characteristics in the mode of passion are intense hankering, intense desire. And if I'm not successful, if I cannot achieve what I desire, then I get really angry and yes, and frustrated. So this is passion. And then ignorance, here it goes even deeper. And it actually goes so deep. Desire is still there, even stronger than before, but it becomes really, it turns really into so much ignorance that even that what we desire becomes inauspicious, completely, even more inauspicious anyways. All my desires in the material world are actually inauspicious. But in the ignorance, people, for example, the difference like in passion, people like success. They want to be happy in their family life with their husband or wife. They want money, they want position, they want prestige. But in the mode of ignorance, one is like so deep into illusion that one actually is just striving for some intoxication, just wants to just completely delude himself even more, just intoxication, some drugs, or just losing himself in the watching movies or playing the video games and things like that. So, and the intensity of hatred in the mode of ignorance is really great. So a person in the mode of ignorance becomes also very, very violent. So it is not actually accidental that in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, where Sri Uddhava is asking Krishna about some definitions of different things in this world. When he asks him for definition of hell, Krishna says that the hell is the predomination of the mode of ignorance. So when this predominating force, modality of material nature culminates in the mode of ignorance, then this is the hellish condition for everyone. Because people who are like so much covered with the mode of ignorance, they completely bewildered, they get mad, and they actually, they are willing to do anything for their own selfish enjoyment. They are ready to kill others without any feeling of compassion, become cruel, ruthless, and yeah, at the end they actually really get mad, and they create hellish environment for everybody else. So, and there is more. Actually, now we just touched at the beginning of the psychology of illusion. So this is this duality of desire and hate. So this is very important for us to understand, because we may be on the spiritual path, we may be practicing bhakti, yoga, maybe for many years, maybe for decades. But if we find ourselves that the desire and hate is still strong in our consciousness, that means that we are still very much in illusion, and we should be concerned about how we are really practicing our sadhana, how we are really practicing our bhakti, that we are still so illusioned. But then there is more. Another aspect of the psychology of illusion is very interesting. It is that the prime necessity of the human civilization is to gratify the senses. And yes, to gratify the senses. So this becomes the predominating attitude or the motive for one's action and behavior. And of course, this is very, very strongly influenced by the mode of passion. And also further psychology. So much wealth or anything else I have today, and I will get more according to my schemes. And so much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. And he is my enemy, and I have killed him. And my other enemies will also be killed. I'm the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I'm perfect, powerful, and happy. So these two verses actually describe the demoniac mentality. But we need to understand that actually to be illusioned means to be affected by this kind of mentality. And in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, we have a most amazing explanation of the, again, another important aspect of illusion. And this is regarding the identity of I and mine. So when we are in illusion, and which means that we are identifying with this body, then we consider ourselves to be the controllers and the enjoyers of everything that we survey. So of everything that is around us, so that is connected with us, that is connected with our body, really, that is connected with our body. We consider that, yeah, it is mine, I can use it, and also that as if I have created it, although I mean, we didn't create anything. But we have this ownership of things around us. And this is so wrong. This is so wrong. Because what really is the real identity of the soul? How is the identity of the soul different from the identification of the body? When we are identifying with the body, this identification is also known as the bodily concept of life. And the majority of people, 99.999, are in this bodily concept of life. And when we are identifying with this body, we are especially very much aware of any sensations that the body is experiencing, and we are trying to bring pleasure to the body and to protect the body from any kind of displeasure, discomfort, or pain. And so this gives that what I just explained, that the primary goal becomes sense gratification, because this really is what will please the body. The body is pleased with sense gratification. So then we are totally focused only on sense gratification, and it can happen to us even when we are on the spiritual path, even when we are practicing bhakti yoga. It is very possible. But if we now look at the other side, the real identification, according to Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, and what Srila Prabhupada says in this introduction to Bhagavad Gita, is that I am a spiritual being, a soul, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Mamai Vamsho Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna says that the soul is the infinitesimal particle of him, a separated particle of him. The real position of the soul, the real position of the living entity is that he is neither the controller nor the enjoyer. Why not? Because this position is already taken. The Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, he is the enjoyer and he is the controller of everything. and including us. He also controls us and enjoys us. And what is our role? Our role actually is that we cooperate with his enjoyment. And in this way, we can also enjoy. So this is really the only way for us to achieve legitimate happiness in this world or in the spiritual world, anywhere. Our legitimate happiness lies in the happiness of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we engage all our time and energy into trying to give him pleasure, then we can enjoy when he enjoys. Then when he is pleased, we also become pleased because he gives us the happiness. He bestows the bliss, the pleasure to the soul, to us. After all, we are his part and particle. We are part of him. So when he is happy, we are happy. We cannot be happy separate from him. So this is the greatest illusion. The idea that I can be happy without Krishna, that I can be happy separate from him. And now actually, I would like to give a little illustration by a story which actually shows this is one of many, many stories of devotees who were bewildered by illusion and how it actually manifested, how they manifested all this psychology that I just explained from different angles of vision. And this is the story of King Indra. It is a very well-known story. And this is when little Krishna convinced his father, Nanda Maharaj, that they don't have to perform a sacrifice for worshipping King Indra. Because Krishna saw how his father and all the other villagers in Vrindavan were preparing everything for a great sacrifice for the pleasure of Indra. And when Krishna asked his father, why are you doing this? His father said, well, this is a custom. We have been doing this, since I remember, because we have to please King Indra, Lord Indra, because he controls the weather. And if he's pleased, then he will send rains, then we will have good crops, and we will obtain the grains and everything that we need, and we'll be happy. And then Krishna convinced father that no, actually you don't need Indra to be happy. You really need only the Govardhan hill, because Govardhan hill is giving you everything. The grains are growing on the slopes of Govardhan, the beautiful green grass is growing, that our cows are grazing there. There is water, there is fruits, everything is there, what you need. So you should worship Govardhan hill. So, and then the father agreed, and all the villagers of Vrindavan were worshipping Govardhan hill. And when they were worshipping Govardhan hill, King Indra noticed this and he became angry. So here we have the manifestation, which is explained in this verse, desire and hate. So Indra had actually a desire. He wanted to be worshipped. Why he wanted to be worshipped? Because he actually considered himself to be the controller of these people, the residents of Vrindavan. So he had this desire to be worshipped. And when they didn't worship him, he became hateful. And actually, what he did, he sent those clouds, some Vartaka clouds, the clouds of devastation. And with these clouds of devastation, he wanted to kill, first of all the animals, all the cows. that were the source of prosperity for the villagers. And actually, he wanted to finish them all. And this is exactly what we were just reading now, that, yeah, he's my enemy and I will kill him. Because I'm the controller. I'm the one who has to enjoy. So Indra became completely overwhelmed with this illusion. Of course, because Krishna is very, very merciful, he, with his mystical power, he taught a lesson to Indra, and at the same time protected all the residents of Vrindavan by lifting Govardhan Hill. So all the residents were protected underneath Govardhan Hill, and King Indra, he saw that there is actually somebody who is much more powerful than him. And that he is actually not the supreme controller, and he came to his senses. He came back to his senses because he actually understands his position, and it was just temporarily that he was carried away by the illusion. So in the same way, it can also happen to us. We may be understanding this philosophy, at least theoretically, and we may be trying to work our way to become free from illusion, practicing many wonderful qualities with humility and service attitude. But from time to time, it may happen to us that we get bewildered, that we get illusioned, and that we get carried away. So now the third thing that I wanted to touch upon is what to do, how to do to become free from this illusion. And we understand that actually we cannot become free from this illusion overnight, because we are born into it. We are born, as is described in this verse that we are just discussing now, Bhagavad Gita 7:27, that all living entities are born into this illusion of desire and hate. This is built into this body that we have. And as much as we are identifying with this body, the stronger these pushings are, both for desire and for hate. But actually, if we are making advancement on our spiritual path towards self-realization, then what we will see that gradually the duality is becoming less intense, meaning that our material desires will not be so strong and intense anymore. They will start like diminishing in their quality, in their intensity, and then also in their quantity. So gradually, they will disappear gradually. But it is a process, it is a path. And at the same time, the other side of duality, the anger, the resentment, the hatred also starts diminishing in the intensity, becomes lesser and lesser and lesser until also disappears in the context of material things. This does not mean that a spiritually very advanced personality never experienced anger. He may, and that anger, it's actually not material anymore. But we now speaking of this, about these material emotions, of illusory emotions. So in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is very, very wonderfully explained, and I just wanted to share just a little bit. Yes. When we strive to receive the knowledge, to obtain the knowledge. This is one very important step on becoming free from illusion. It is obtaining Sambandha Jnana. Sambandha Jnana is the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, philosophical knowledge, which is given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita about the relationships, about who we are as a soul, who he is, the Supreme Lord, as Ishvara or controller, and who is the material energy, and then also what are the relationships between the three. When we understand this basic knowledge of Sambandha very clearly, then we understand this point that our identification with the body is illusory, and it's a misidentification, and that the only way for us to really be happy is through happiness of Krishna, which means by serving him. When we serve Krishna, then this is the way for us to become happy. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkayona ya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. This is the verse in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which describes that a person who has this knowledge, a wise person, he actually understands that the sense objects are the sources of misery. And because of that, he does not delight in them anymore. So this is the key. When we get this knowledge, and when we internalize this knowledge by serving our guru, when we get at least some of the realization, then we understand that we will not become happy just by, satisfying this body, satisfying these senses, be it the gross material senses or the subtle senses which require position, prestige, our mind, right? And the ego, position, prestige, recognition, worship, distinction. All these things do not bring pleasure, do not bring real happiness, but they are actually the sources of misery, of pain. And the only real happiness and pleasure is when we go actually within, when we look for pleasure through our service to Krishna. When we are not focused any longer on searching for happiness in the external world. And so another step here is that we also need to acquire a higher taste. And what is higher taste? Higher taste is the taste for this higher happiness. And it begins with like a taste for hearing and taste for reading this Shastra, the sacred scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. When we have taste for hearing and reading, then just by hearing and reading, we gain so much happiness and so much bliss. And then we also get more taste for service and for all kinds different aspects of bhakti, of activities in our devotional service in bhakti. And by this higher taste, we can actually resist the urges of our lower nature, because the urges of our lower nature will still come from time to time. But with a higher taste, we are well situated and we can keep ourselves on this higher platform. And when we are so well situated, we can become absorbed. This is now the third point. we are becoming more and more absorbed in the spiritual reality. We become absorbed in this Krishna Katha. We become absorbed in the knowledge from Bhagavad Gita. We become absorbed in Krishna's qualities, in Krishna's pastimes, descriptions of the spiritual world. And then all these changes that our material body and mind are going through will not affect us any longer so much. Like if I connect again with this first analogy that I gave of the moon, which is situated in the sky and just stands still, and then the reflection of the moon, which is quivering on the water. So when we are absorbed in that real, the reality, the spiritual reality, then we can become stable. Then we can become fixed, and we will not quiver anymore. We will not be shaken anymore. Each time something happens, some upheaval happens in the material world, which is happening all the time. And in this way, we become more and more neutral towards the happenings in the material world. And these are the signs that we are approaching, that we are progressing towards self-realization. So I will stop here, and I am very eager to hear from you. So please, if you were inspired by this class, you can ask some questions. We can have some discussions. Just write in the comments, and we will keep in touch. Hare Krishna.